Here we go. This is Martha Creek. You can contact me, marthacreek.com. It's a website that's got all sorts of free information, including these podcasts, these videos, and workshops and ways of being about whatever you're about in the world. This is a podcast series on mentoring moments with Martha. And I'm very blessed to have a dear, dear friend, a dear human being and divine feminine expert here with us today, who's got a book hot off the press, another one she'll be speaking about today, Rima Bonario. And I love that you're here, honey, and I love that you said yes. So the latest, the hot off the press, so contact me, by the way, marthacreek.com, if I can serve you. And if you're listening, just a reminder that it's not about trying to be a Martha or a Rima. It's about being the best you can be and the greatest iteration of you that can be. And this is offered to get empowered teachings to the whole of the world and to provide support for you to continue to deepen your own knowing, to deepen your own relationship with yourself and your source of self. So thank you for being here, honey. So tell us about this
Thank
book,
you.
this breaking news, this big book, and this what you're doing in queendom and the queendoms.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on, Martha. So, coming up on March 3rd, my new book, The Seven Queendoms, A Soul Map for Embodying Sacred Feminine Sovereignty, will be available on Amazon. And I'm so excited to be working with Flower of Life Press on this beautiful book. And it really is a beautiful book. It's all printed in full color because it has these amazing art pieces that were done by Jenny Han, which many people will be familiar with her amazing evolutionary art. And what I've done in this book is share a number of stories from my own past and my own journey into being able to really own my own sovereignty and my journey to discover the divine feminine and have that energy, that version of the divine active in my life and supporting me and really being embodied, because really that's where our power is when we're fully bringing the divine down into the body. That's where we actually can make something happen here on earth.
I think it's important to speak about it's so exciting, honey, the book and how quickly this is. So by the time you hear this, readers, it's already there. So like hurry on over there. So even though it's presented today, it's like a little bit up the road. It's like it's not up the road. By the time you hear this, it'll be there. So don't delay getting in there to get that. And I think it's important to speak about Rima, the notion of this sovereignty and the difference of the power from within and the power from on high and the power that is infinite, eternal power versus this power over or power to control, power to manipulate, power to seduce, power to charm. So speak a little bit about that that definition of this power that you're referring to and the common myths and misunderstandings around this notion of power.
Yeah, that's a great way of posing that question. So sovereignty really is about self-governance. It's having the ability to be the final authority in your own life. And so this idea of self-sovereignty is not focused on the dominator model that we've had for power for way too long, that it's all about, if somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose, I'm going to make sure that I'm the winner, that sort of force and domination experience. And sovereignty is more about seeking your inner wisdom and your inner truth, and then aligning with that and living from that, so that you're just standing in your truth, and you are really in connection to your own most exquisite and unique divine expression. And there's no competition between you and anybody else when that happens, because everybody's got their own unique frequency, their own divine expression. And so it's really about standing firmly in your truth, and then having some skill sets around how you negotiate with others when there's seemingly a conflict between what you need and want and desire and what they need and want and desire, and how you can get through those moments in a healthy way. And what I've done through this book is break down the queen archetype, which provides for us a really beautiful felt sense of what sovereignty should feel like in the body, and sort of looks like when you close your eyes and think about how would a queen handle this situation, that really gives us some support. And I've broken that archetype out into 7 different queens that loosely correlate with the chakra system and other forms of esoteric teaching, to give us some real clarity around how we can be our very best selves and how we can really embody our own inner queen. And then to help us with that, in addition to the 7 queendoms, there are 2 shadow qualities, or 2 shadow queens, that are available to be examined so that we can tell when we're off the path, and bring ourselves back into being in a place of self sovereignty.
That sounds like a queen's take on the shadow, my friend.
Absolutely.
They're the shadow queens that are available for us to examine. It's like, so yes, so speak about those then. This type of energy that is not as enlightened, that is not as confident, that is not as solidly grounded yet. So speak about those shadows. Let's bring that.
Sure. So let's take, for example, the empowered queen. So when we're in our empowered queen, we're very well connected to our personal power. We've defined boundaries very well for ourselves and others. We are in a place of self-determination. We're in a place of self-devotion. We're in a place of self-direction, and we've got self-discipline on board. All of those things are happening when we're in the empowered queen. But when we flip into shadow there, we can end up in one of 2 forms. One is an overexpression of that power, and the other is an underexpression of that power. So the underexpressed queen, I call her the beheaded queen. And to me, these things are so helpful because they create these great visuals. Like, I imagine, how powerful or effective can you be if you're walking around with your head under your arm, right? Not very well connected to your body, to your power, to your core. And so if we've given up our power in relationship, if we've given our power over to others, it's like walking around beheaded, and that's not helpful. On the other hand, if we get too expressed or using our power incorrectly, we might be what I call the cutthroat queen, which is we're running around with our sword, and everything is a battle, and we're cutting off everybody's head, just sort of like the Queen of Hearts, off with her head. Those are not the kinds of qualities we want to show up in, where we're either over expressing our power, under expressing our power. Instead, we want to move into that place of being empowered ourselves, and then being able to empower others.
Yeah, and that's important, I think, to Rima, to see that what you've described are polarities, and that cutthroat, beheaded is a polarity. You say, well, I don't run around cutting people's heads off. It's like, well, take another look at that because you may not use a sword to do it, but you may use sarcasm or deflection or little jabs here and there. That is the sharpest knife in the drawer you have. That it's not just as clean as cutting somebody's head off, but it's a tendency that we have to lean into that. So if we're not so extreme to get over here to cutthroat, it's like, even to avoid playing around over there in that polarity of the mind, to say it's not going to serve me, it's certainly not going to serve me, it will not serve me, or my relationships over time are bound to be eroded by that. And the same thing goes if the beheaded includes if I'm cut off from my own feelings, from my own goals, from my own values or whatever, that I have no sense of self, or that my sense of self is a pseudo self, so that I only know who I am in relationship to somebody else, versus defining who I am and being clear about who I am, regardless of what is coming or going from the other. And I love the graphics of it. So I look forward to seeing the art and the way that may be depicted. I also think it's important, honey, that to speak about this notion of queens that would be seen as domineering, selfish, diva like. It's all about me and bring in my bring in my servers and bow down to me and whatever else. So do speak any way you can to dispel that that's not it, that's a misunderstanding of this. So
Absolutely. Yeah. So the sovereign's job is to bless the land and bless the people and to hold that space of a safe kingdom or queendom, to create a community and a collaborative atmosphere where all people can succeed. Like when we have a benevolent king or queen on the seat of their throne, that's their job. Now, we've had lots of experiences of people doing that imperfectly, which is going to happen. But then we've had experiences of people and fairy tales and such stories, right, of that happening, not just imperfectly, but really in a twisted way, where there's either an abdication of authority or where a sovereign becomes a tyrant. And that's not being in the sovereign energy. And I like to think of it, I like to use the analogy of the queen bee. So in a hive, the bee that becomes the queen is born a regular larva, like all the other larvae. And then once it's selected, once the hive selects that larva that's going to be the queen, her only job from that point on for a period of time specifically is to eat. And the rest of the hive just rallies around her and brings her all this stuff. It's actually called royal jelly, and she just nourishes herself and receives and takes in so that she can grow as big as possible. So when her time comes to be the queen of the hive, she can lay all the eggs that are needed in order to keep that hive healthy and growing. And this is what we have to take away from this analogy in nature. Our job as queens is to fill ourselves and to be willing to receive that which is being provided to us from the universe that's constantly longing to give to us. Our job is to be good receivers and bring that in and ground it in on earth so that then we can give out from a whole and filled place, from the overflow, from abundance. And what happens instead very often is that women give first and fail to receive. And so then we give and give and give until we give out and there's nothing left. And then we shut down or we quit or we get sick or we're not our highest and best selves. We're not able to serve from the best possible place there. We can't mother from that place. You know, when we're empty, our well is empty, we're not going to be great in our relationships in that way. And so rather than being selfish, it's actually, I would say, the opposite of that. It's our holy duty to make sure we are filling ourselves and not expecting everybody else in our space to do that for us, when really it's most of the things that are most important to receive, we have to give ourselves. We need to learn how to do that. We need to learn to take time for ourselves, to make sure that we're putting ourselves on our own calendars and refreshing and renewing ourselves. It's really irresponsible to not be caring first and foremost for ourselves with an eye towards then being able to be available for everyone else.
yeah, and amen to that. And it's one of my favorite things about it is that it's an inside job. So that the more I do that, I'm practiced in that. And then if it ever comes to me from outside, which it naturally will because of the nature of other human beings, that's a bonus. It's
Yes.
a bonus, but it's not a dependency on I need from you, I need from you, I need from you, I want from you, you shouldn't. And it's like it's a madness of that has proven over since creation to
Mhm.
be ineffective. So it's a change of the tide, so to speak. And I believe the beginning of a different paradigm, so that we're creating in this time, for whatever reason, a way that's clearly going to be leaning towards sustainability and the spirit and the emotional aspects of us and the sovereignty of us and the care of our own soul. So in the book, honey, you wrote, that I pulled out in reading the part of it that I read, the good news is here, and it's one of my favorite expressions. Here's the gospel. That's what the gospel means. The good news. Here's the good news. We can change our hair trigger responses, which I say are knee jerk responses. the
Mhm.
choices we make. We can change choices that we make and the direction of our life. Even pervasive, deeply rooted, the inertia of that, habits that seem so stubborn and beyond reach can be softened, loosened, cultivated. And it's no small thing. So Rima says, I say, you can do it, ladies. You can do it. We can do it. It's our place to do it, and it's our time to do it. And our liberation depends on this. So then I say, let this depiction of one journey written here by Dr. Rima be an inspiration, a light shed, a lighthouse for me, for you to awaken to this power, this potential, and this journey that exists in all of us. And our willingness to do so is going to be a catalyst for this and to stay open for this. So it is, if I often ask in these moments, Rima, if this is going to be listened to, this little moment that we have here today is going to be listened to for 2,000 years,
Mhm.
what message do you want to convey to humans?
Well,
Whoever hears this. Yeah.
thank you. That's so lovely. I think one thing that feels so true to me is the understanding that when women thrive, the world thrives. And as we're in this change right now, where we're seeing sort of diminishing returns from an over reliance on the masculine approach, we're needing to balance that back out and bring in more of the qualities of feminine ways of being and doing, which haven't been as well regarded in the last several thousand years. And, you talk about polarities. While I see the shadows more kind of on a continuum from underexpressed into central expression that's healthy, all the way up to overexpression, masculine and feminine are actually in that polarity relationship where they're interdependent. You need them both. Both of these things are of high value. We don't want to get rid of our masculine capacities. We need those. We just want those to be in service to the feminine, because when the feminine leads from a generative place, the feminine leads from um, a life-giving birthing place, and we need that masculine energy to be in support and create a safe and sacred container for that birthing to happen. And we need to be able to take action, but we want that action to be directed by our divine selves, our higher selves. And to have this beautiful reclamation. We've had a masculine feminine split here on this planet in the human psyche, and it's time for us to reunion, right? To bring those back into divine union so that they have a loving, caring, nurturing relationship with each other. They work symbiotically together, and we can get the benefit of both our masculine and feminine capacities here on earth right now in our own lives and in our communities. We desperately need it.
Yeah. So what do you think? Speak about the consequences. What do you see have been the consequences and what will be exponentially consequential?
Mhm.
Don't step into this, awaken to this, and begin to embrace and to practice this.
Well, in our personal lives, the first thing that happens is when we as women are running our bodies continually from our masculine energy. See, we all have both masculine and feminine capacities and energies within us. When we're running largely off our masculine, we basically short circuit our energy system. It's just not ideal for us. It's not sustainable. It's okay to turn that volume up on the masculine energy for short bursts of time when you're in a book launch, say, or other things like that. But largely, we want to still make sure that we're connecting with our feminine essence and our feminine energy, and we've got enough of a balance happening there. The consequences of not doing that are illness, a lot of disharmony in our relationships, where if you're partnered, for example, in a heterosexual relationship with a man, there's going to be conflict if he's bringing all his masculine energy and you've got all your masculine energy. Now there's just this, competition going on instead of there being a really nice flow of energy. And even in same-sex relationships, you have exchanges of energy, and sometimes someone is more on their feminine side, someone's more on their masculine side, and you can create beautiful harmonies when these energies flow together. There can be challenges in parenting, there can be challenges at work, and just really not feeling happy and healthy in the body because we're overextended too much of the day. We're frazzled. We're running around from thing to thing. We're not focused and connected to our essence and being self-directed with a capital S, for the higher self. Those are some of the consequences. And then communally in our communities and in our global family, we have a bunch of leaders, potential leaders as women who are not brought in and allowed to contribute from their perspective, which when we look at problems like we're having now with climate change, with pandemics, with a lot of people needing to move because of economic challenges, these are systemic issues. You can't kill your way out of these issues. You can't fight your way out of these issues. We have to collaborate and connect and nurture ourselves out of these issues. And those are predominantly feminine characteristics, which women generally have a little bit more access to. There are lots of women that operate very much out of their masculine, and there are lots of men that operate very much out of their feminine. And it doesn't matter who the leader is, we need these feminine qualities, whether it's a man or a woman, to show up in our leadership scenarios so that we can have a more nurturing global experience.
Well, I think that's a breakthrough in itself to even take down some of the gender around this and to see that what we're talking about here and what you're offering is not gender specific. It is
Mm-mm.
the aspects of a human being and the unattended to aspects of the human being, and then the what happens when they're out of balance, when one is more dominant, when one is more run amok, when one is more practiced, one is more familiar than the other one that's left behind, or less cultivated or less explored, or we hold less awareness about it. So that's what I believe is like it's male or female, homosexual, heterosexual, whatever it is, that this applies to all. And that
Yeah, and there are even people that so gender is made up, right? It's just these are just norms that we've created. There are cultures, many cultures, indigenous cultures, that recognized up to 5 different genders. So really, there's not even just and the masculine and feminine energy is not at all to be confused with male and female, or even with our bodies. We kind of have a binary sort of physicality, but there's lots of expression inside of that. It doesn't have to be binary. We can still experience the masculine and feminine energies.
Yes, and care for all of them, to care for both, and to know when to reel it in, and to uplift and to breathe a little life into. So it's so inspiring to hear. This is hope for me. I live in grounded hope, not fantasy based hope, but grounded hope. So that's what your writing and your teaching represents for me, Dr. Rima. It's also what I want to offer out here, that whatever you've heard today, that in some way awakens something in you that you know to be truthful, to that means it is shine some light into your own, the aspect of you that says there's another option for me here, and it's consequential over here, and there's a potential here that is within my power, within my own sovereignty. So male, female, up, down, sovereignty as a human being, sovereignty as an energy that holds infinite eternal power, that's not just a platitude of power, but of something that is to be embodied and lived from. So tell us how to contact you, honey, if the people want to work with you personally in your groups or directly, and how to get into your world if they're more interested in
Yeah.
that.
So the book is going to be available on Amazon. By the time you're watching this, should already be out. You can go look for The Seven Queendoms, A Soul Map for Embodying Sacred Feminine Sovereignty by Dr. Rima Bonario. And people can come to my website, rimabonario.com. And there's all kinds of information there about the classes that I offer, and the work that I do. There are things that people can sign up for. You can join my mailing list. That would be a great way to get connected with me. And I'm also on Facebook. You can look me up on Facebook. You can find my business page. It's you'll see me as a dream weaver and soul coach there. And I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, not so much. I post there on occasion, but I'm really not active there. But would love, love, love to connect with anyone that wants to explore a little bit more about the Queen. And I actually have an open Facebook group called Awakening the Queen. So you could look for that and come join the group. We're in there talking about all kinds of things related to the seven queens and personal sovereignty and how you can really own that in your life.
Yeah, thank you, honey. And so Godspeed, Queen Speed, and Queen Bee, and I'll never see a bee the same way again. From my new
Beautiful.
page that's formed in here, and what the term actually means and how important the term actually is. Thank you for taking the time today. So listeners, God bless you. Know that you're loved and loved. There's things you do not have to do alone, the majority of it. So get yourself in a community, a tribe, a spiritual group, a women's circle, a men's circle somewhere, and explore what we're pointing to today. And there's certain things you'll have to do for yourself and with yourself, and not to overlook those either. So till we meet again, marthacreek.com to contact me if there's any way in the world I can serve you. Blessings. marthacreek.com if I can support you. Blessings.